Opposition leader Juan Guaidó is urging a second day of protests after calling on the military to no longer support President Maduro. In an address, Guaidó called for all of Venezuela to protest today, which also happens to be International Workers' Day. He went on to say that the streets belong to the people, though there was violence on those streets yesterday during demonstrations. More than 70 people were injured in yesterday's clashes, many of them by Maduro's military supporters. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says that Maduro planned to leave the country but was stopped by Russia. Now, Maduro denies those claims. So joining me now from Washington with the very latest on Venezuela is State Department reporter Christina Ruffini. So, Christina, I want to start with what Pompeo had to say, the comments that he had to say about Maduro. Maduro, as we reported a little bit earlier in the show, he also addressed the nation. He denied those reports that he was trying to leave the country. And now Russia is accusing the U.S. of waging an information war. What do you make of this?
I mean, that's a ripe claim coming from the Russians, but true or not, if Maduro decided to stay, he had no choice but to debunk this claim because it makes him look weak on two fronts. First, that he was fleeing the country he claims to be in charge of, and second, that he was allegedly talked out of running away by the Russians. There have been a lot of accusations from Maduro and the Cubans and other governments who opposed Juan Guaidó that he's an American puppet, right? That the U.S. is trying to install a lackey to run the country. Now, the U.S. is pushing this idea that Maduro is taking orders from the Russians, painting him essentially as Putin's lackey. I think it's too soon to know where exactly this is coming from, and perhaps Special Representative Elliott Abrams might have said it best yesterday when he said the situation on the ground in Venezuela is confused.
Confused. Yeah, that's probably a good characterization. And what else did we hear from Maduro?
You know, he said that he is still in control of the country. He said he put down an attempted coup, and that he, you know, he's moving forward. And we'll have to see in the days to come if that's true, if he is still in charge of the country. Like you said, there are more protests planned for today. There were always big protests planned for today, which is May 1st. We're still unsure why exactly they were moved up to yesterday, what precipitated that. Obviously, Juan Guaidó thought that there was something, whether it was he was under threat of arrest or they felt they needed to do it immediately not to lose momentum, why they launched this yesterday. But there's a second round of protests today, and we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, it was difficult to determine, or it has been difficult for me to determine, watching so far, whether or not Juan Guaidó actually sort of has the support that he needs. I asked myself the same question that you just posed. Why start things yesterday? It certainly looked like he had the support of a handful of members of the military, but not the key leaders of the military. Is there enough momentum here for Juan Guaidó?
I mean, that's almost an impossible question to answer. Actually, another journalist from an international network asked me that at a press conference yesterday. She said, you know, is this going to be it now? Do we think this is it? And we just don't know, because I think even a lot of people inside the State Department thought that what we'd seen previously, especially that day on the Seaman Boulevard Bridge with the aid on fire and the clashes, would have been enough to shake up the military leadership, to shake some of those people loose and have them support Juan Guaidó. For whatever reason, that hasn't happened, and the people I've talked to, both inside and outside the administration, can't quite explain why they think that is. Now you have National Security Advisor Bolton calling out these three high-ranking Maduro officials by name, saying that they promised to back the Constitution, read Juan Guaidó, but have not done so. Look, we didn't know about these negotiations previously, and I'm not sure Maduro did either. So now that they've been outed, I think the U.S. is hoping to force their hand and help flip the government, or these individuals could face possible retribution from a very unhappy boss in Maduro.
The other thing that sort of surprised me, in a way, a little bit, was just how robust the support from U.S. officials was right away, before we could see whether this was just going to be some more street protests, which we've seen a lot of, or whether it was going to develop into something else. I mean, the U.S. has already said that, you know, all options are on the table, including force. The president has announced that he would embargo Cuba if they don't leave Venezuela, you know, stop supporting Venezuela. Is the U.S. helping or hurting this situation?
The answer is yes, both. I mean, look, Juan Guaidó really needed, especially at the beginning, he needed the support of the U.S. and all of the international community to back him and give him a sense of legitimacy he might not have had otherwise. Look, he is an elected official. He is, by some arguments, by many arguments, the only legitimate elected official, and that's why he is the interim president. But it's difficult to say whether the U.S. is helping or hurting. It does open him up to claims that he's under influence of the U.S. Like I said, there's this line from people who are against him that he's a puppet of the U.S. But the State Department and the administration, in addition to their very vocal and very fast endorsement of Juan Guaidó and any traction or movement he seems to make, is always very careful to say, look, this is a choice by the Venezuelans. This is the Venezuelan people are making this choice. This is their country, their movement. It started at home. It came with the regional support of the OAS and all these other countries. And the U.S. is joining this pro-democracy party already in progress.
All right. Well, thank you so much for bringing us up to date. I know there's a lot more to come. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Anne Marie.